size 2 are not their perfect audience. So the key for that retailer is to find out where they can find these women. So, for example, Weight Watchers or a Jenny Craig or perhaps an organization that serves people who are more generous in their size, that might be a place to start, because they're looking for people who are more generously proportioned, which means they may or may not be interested in weight loss or fitness or whatever the case may be. Does that make sense? The perfect audience versus the whole world?
Oh, absolutely. And I think people could really make better use of their dollars spent if they targeted in like that. And I think that, again, I'm hoping that people are getting more savvy when it comes to their perfect audience. I'm not sure everybody is yet, but I think that, as we look at what's going on in the world today, I think they're realizing that when they narrow down and they focus in, their results are much better. And that brings me to a point that I think this started happening about a half a dozen years ago, when smaller companies were buying larger companies. And I always was amazed that the smaller company was the one that ended up influencing and buying the larger company. And I was saying, why do they do that? And I think it's because they may be quicker on their feet, they may be more entrepreneurial, they may be able to do things faster. But when we talk about joint venture partners, and that's when you get together with someone and you both cooperate to make shall we say, a bigger piece of the pie, so to speak, what are the best ways to invite the interest of somebody who's a big joint venture partner and who has the influence to take what you do to a bigger scope? That's a difficult thing to do. So how do you do that? And how do you do that in many arenas?
Well, I'll explain. I'll do the best I can with this. We're all beating the drum for ourselves, right? We all have something to bring to market that has some value to offer. But when you...
Well, we hope so, Nancy. We hope so. Isn't that interesting that you bring that up? Because some people do think that they are unusual and different, and they have something to offer. I just wrote a little blurb on something like that where somebody's asked me, well, what differentiates someone, and why do people think that they are the best? And I say, well, a lot of people say, I have the best customer service. Well, I would like to know what company doesn't say that. I mean, that's really a commodity. And so what you're saying is really important, that do you have something really unique and different to bring to that other person? So go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I just had to say that because that just came up in an article I wrote just a couple of days ago. Well,
and I'm glad. First and foremost, we have to believe that what we have is something special, different, and of service. That is a non-starter. Got to have that. So I'm going to use an example. Remember way back when on television there was a show called The Hollywood Squares, and there were 9 celebrities in a tic-tac-toe board, and they all helped each other answer the questions. Do you remember that, Gail?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Showing my age here, but absolutely.
Yeah, me too. But here, I heard Mari Smith, the social media expert, talk about the power of the Hollywood Squares in our businesses, and it really hit me squarely between the eyes and took me on a path to grow my business big time. And so here's what I mean by that. She said, put yourself in the center of the tic-tac-toe board with your expertise in the center, your product, your service, your offering. And then ask yourself, if wishes were horses and you could partner up with the 8 perfect organizations that could benefit from what you had to offer and they could benefit from what you had to offer, who would they be? This is like blue ocean strategy. So I'm going to make this really anchored to what it is that I do to make the example crystal clear. One of the things that I do better than just about anyone on the planet is help transform boring bios into client-attracting magnets. So I think to myself, who needs that? And who has a lot of influence around that? So what I figured out is that anyone who leads a tribe of aspiring authors could be a great partner for me, because everyone who's writing a book is going to need to write an About Me page. Anyone who's going to be writing a book is going to want to get publicity. Anyone who's writing a book is going to want to speak in front of large audiences to make a bigger difference. And you know what they all need? They need a client-attracting bio. So author tribes are great for me. Christian Michelson leads a tribe of fabulous coaches who want to get clients. And your first impression is, do I have a bio that rocks the world, that gets people to want to take another step? Most of them don't. I can serve that. Another audience is people who are workshop leaders. They need to speak and get introduced properly. And most of them are so worried about getting their rooms filled that they don't think about how they're going to be introduced when they get to the stage. So you can see that. I thought workshop leaders, authors, coaches, publicity seekers. So then what I thought is, okay, who leads tribes of people who are reaching out to find that solution? So I figured out it was Christian Michelson for coaches, and it was Christine Closer for authors, and it was Joan Stewart for publicity. And then what I did, and this is the best part, is I got familiar with their expertise. I joined their newsletter lists. I became familiar enough with what it is that they did that I was able to reach out to them and say, I understand, Christine, you do a transformational author experience every May. I'm wondering if my tribe of almost 20,000 people would be interested in learning more about it. How can I support you? And then she says, well, gee, I've got this big event coming up. Would you like to help spread the word? I'd be delighted. And when I support her first and deliver a fabulous outcome in terms of people rushing to participate, when her event is over, invariably she says, wow, you made a huge impact for me, Nancy. What can I do for you? So I'm proud to tell you that the 8 people that I identified in my Hollywood Squares, I thoughtfully and strategically reached out to support them first, deliver magic that they could feel and experience, to create a level of service and commitment to their success that they were only too happy to return the generosity at some future point. And now we have lasting relationships. And now, instead of me beating the drum all by myself, I have 8 amazing partners who know me, love me, trust me, to the point that they're willing to go to the mountaintop to their huge tribes of people to say, Nancy is the go-to expert in this arena. She gets my highest recommendation. This has been a
Well, you brought up really, really good points, Nancy. We just have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure we get people to know where you are. But you brought up important points, and that is, number one, do your research. Don't think you're a great partner for everyone. You're a great partner for certain people, and it's up to you, the person, the organization, to do that research. Number two, just don't jump in and call them. Know what you're talking about. You called up and said, I have 20,000 people I can make aware of who you are to Christine, and that's important. Of course, there are a lot of people listening who don't have a list of 20,000. So you've got to figure out, they've got to figure out, how do you approach someone you want to partner with? What can you bring to the table? That's the second point you made. And the third is to really support them in a lot of different ways. And then you have a champion for yourself as well. So those are really, really important ways. Now, I introduced you as Nancy Juetten, but we know your name is spelled a little bit differently. So how can you tell people to get in touch with you?
The easiest thing to do is send me email at nancy@authenticvisibility.com. Authentic is spelled as you would expect. Visibility is visibility.com. And if you can't remember that because you're driving or you can't pull off on the road, just Google Business Bio Expert. Without even knowing how to spell my name, thousands and thousands of references will come up, and you will be able to find me wherever you are in the world, and I would be delighted to hear from you. And I have lovely free gifts to share from my website and from my social media that will help you transform your boring bio into a client-attracting magnet, and I would love for you to avail yourself to those useful tools so that you can get out there in a much bigger way, get known, and get paid handsomely for your expertise, because why not? You deserve it.
That's wonderful. Well, that's Nancy at AuthenticVisibility.com. And I really want to thank you, Nancy, and I want to thank everyone for listening to Women in Business, the show that brings you women entrepreneurs and senior managers. I hope you enjoyed our show today with Nancy, and you can connect with me on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure to download my book, Life Lessons from an SOB, on my website, spunkyoldbroad.com, where you can find information on my speeches, coaching, and resources. And you can also email me at Gayle, that's Gayle, Carson13@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And Nancy, thank you so much for being our guest today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.